do 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 do. Oh, we're starting. Hey, hello everyone. Whew. It's embarrassing. Welcome to the art stream. I am Mal, your host, King Bean Studio, and I'm going to be doing some art today for Almighty on Kickstarter now. I do all the art for all the games I publish, and I do it with these mitts, not with any AI generated crap. All right, not that there's anything wrong with generating anything with AI except that it's stolen from other artists, so that's bad. All right, let's get into it. I have some mortals that we could work on here. This is my sort of Almighty folder in Procreate, which is the program I use on my iPad to draw. I did used to do all my art with pen and paper way back in the day. This was when I had my comic Itchy Feet and I wasn't doing board games. So a lot of the methods that I use here, I do a sketch and then I ink over it and then I color the ink. It's not necessarily that you have to use digital art tools that way, but I do just because it's my habit. We can draw some mortals, and then if we have some time, we'll draw some of this X. I will be looking forward to hearing what if you have any questions about how I do it, what my process is, or what we can just talk about games. That's cool too. I'm going to invite Kevin, co-designer of Almighty, to join me in a few minutes, and he can, throw things at me and yell obscenities and do what he does best, or those two things. And then, yeah, this will wrap up in about an hour, 90 minutes. We'll see. So we're going to start with some mortals. Now, we've got a few here, and I want you to help me decide which we should work on first. We have I'm going to hide this, and you're just going to decide based on the name and this little kind of invisible, not invisible, but this small thumbnail here. So the Swindler is option number 1. Option number 2 is the Deadbeat. Option number 3 is the Royal. Number 4 is the Cannibal. 5 is the Scientist. And 6 is the Prospector. So you tell me. Write a comment. Which one should we do first? The Prospector, the Scientist, the Cannibal, the Royal, the Deadbeat, or the Swindler. All right. Spoliminius, Prospector it is. Now this kind of frame here that I have. So this is the sketch that I've already done for it. I wanted to kind of make it resemble a Prospector without it being too Wild West, which I think is a little bit too recent for an ancient game. So I wanted it to look like an ancient, have a little bit ancient styling. So, but I still wanted to call the feeling of a gold digging prospector that you would expect to see. So I'm trying to mix these kind of two things together. I did mean that I did a bit of research on what old ancient world miners used to use, and apparently they use something called an anchor pick. An antler pick, which is an antler used to make like an antler on the end of a stick as the actual pick, which sounds just terrible as a way of spending all day every day. I think you'd have to do a lot of hunting to get a lot more antlers. I'm sure they break all the time. Why isn't that the first pick you can make in Minecraft? Why is it made of wood? It should be an antler, obviously. All right, so we're going to dim down this sketch. The stuff around it, the stuff you're seeing surrounding it here, this is just so that I can make the card art without while keeping in mind where the like titles, where the worthy, unworthy icon, and where the text box are kind of going to be. They're just guides. All right. Use my ink. Now, I think this little light brown color is the actual color. Let's have a look here at the Masochist, a little peek. So I use this, it's not full black. I wanted the Mortals to have a lot of earthy tones and not as many direct contrast blacks and whites, which is why even the teeth here, you know, something that would otherwise be white, pure white, is kind of this sort of off-white. So it's the same reason the black lines are not black. They're this sort of dark brown. So I always pull it from another one. And then let's start with the... Now the question is his arm raised above his mustache or underneath it? Probably... No. So I often am redoing and undoing lines. Probably raising his arm up over his mustache. So let's see how that looks. That looks wrong. Maybe it's under then. Yeah, that. Now, for most of the mortals, and certainly the gods, and a lot of the mortals as well, I do try to draw them gender neutrally as much as possible. They might be wearing clothes that sort of present one direction or another, but apart from when there's like they've got these big bushy beards, which I can't help. So it's generally in Roll Camera, for example, the vast majority of characters are drawn sort of with this sort of androgynous bean look, but big bushy beards is such a big part of like the old-fashioned ancient world look, you know. Just Monty Python's Life of Brian is just a big inspiration. So some of these beans just gotta have big bushy beards. All right, he's wearing this kind of... I was looking up miners, and a lot of ancient Egypt stuff came up, and they were all wearing these kind of diapers. And so, seeing as I'm a dad now, I mean, I've been a dad for 9 years, but I'm a dad again recently. I'm back in the world of diapers. So, give the prospector a nice little ancient diaper here, so he can work throughout the day. He doesn't have to stop. He doesn't have to take bathroom breaks. It's like the Amazon worker of 2500 BC. Too soon? So this is tricky with the eyes. I want him to be looking, like, ideally he's looking down at this is where the gold is going to be. I mean, that's not terrible. It's hard with these like dot eyes to do it this way. Maybe this will work, actually. It's kind of weird. The perspective's kind of odd. We'll see. It might work. See if I was holding... This is useful to have this mirror image. It's funny with these bean fingers. Kind of approximating how actual fingers work. You have to kind of suggest it. It's supposed to be like the antler. Yeah, okay. So far, so good. comment here from Batanzogi. Just about to order Roll Camera. Theme's really close to my heart. Me too. So I hope you enjoy it. If you have a background in film, you'll appreciate a lot of the little references I made. When I made Roll Camera, I didn't think anyone else was going to be interested in it. So I just made it basically for my my film friends and for myself. And I was like, here's kind of how movies are made. And then it just sort of took off. So I'm glad for that. It reminds me a little bit of The Martian. When Andy Weir was writing The Martian, the book, he didn't intend for it to be a big hit that it was. He was just kind of writing it for his physicist buddies, which is why it's so sciencey and there's so much like in the weeds math and physics and so on in it, because he was just kind of doing it for like the community online that he was publishing to, which was just fellow science nerds basically. And yeah, so it's kind of similar with Roll Camera, where I was just sort of like, well, if you're a film person, you'll kind of get this. So, or if you just like movies, that's okay too. All right, that's it for this guy. Now let's, so for the background elements on the mortal cards, what I've generally been doing is, so here, for example, I'll show you with let's make a group here, Prospector. Here's the Guru. You can see that the backgrounds are they have this like much lighter tone. And that's because one of the important things I learned early on doing the art for Almighty is that a big point of the artwork on the mortal cards is that they are immediately identifiable when they're really, really small. And like from a long distance, from across the board, you're looking and just trying to remember what all the effects of all the mortals are. If you watched the streams we've done, if you've seen the layout of a game of Almighty, especially towards the end, there are a lot of mortals in play generally. And so the artwork is a really important heuristic signifier of like, what does this mortal do again? And so like you see this orange and blue and you're going to remember, oh yeah, the Guru, he does that. And so that only works if the background isn't too involved, which is why, at this size, you look at this and all you see is the kind of character in the middle. So all of them are generally right in the middle. And then the background is only if you're kind of looking a bit closer to give it a bit more, give the image a bit more texture. All right. Let's keep going. So yeah, we're going to use this lighter color to do the rests. Sometimes I do it on a different layer. Sometimes I don't. This is just rock. Rock is just like, I don't know. Sometimes drawing is just drawing squiggly lines. He's been this little donkey. It's been, or mule. Thinking his ears should be a little bit less. They're kind of perky here. I thought he should probably be a little more bored. Be like that. Maybe that's, I don't know. Maybe that's not donkey enough. Pointy. Whatever. I think the high one just makes more sense. Just calls more into a donkey. Just bought a deluxe copy of Power Vacuum to be sold in the wild. Nice. They're hard to find. Power Vacuum is coming to retail from 25th Century Games later this year, so it's gonna not be so difficult to find. But the deluxes are not coming back for the foreseeable future. So if you can get your hands on one of those, good on you. Oh, look, Kevin is here, almost as if I invited him. Hey, Kevin.
Hello, hello.
How's it going?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. No echo either?
I don't know. Hello. No echo.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. So how are your drawings coming along? You're Your art's very popular on the Discord.
Yeah, you want to see one? I've been working on the forager this morning.
Okay.
I'll put it in the Discord.
Do you have a? I wonder if I can get your screen. Oh, nice. How do I get this on that screen? Oh, I think I can just do this. Very good.
So if you want to know my process, I typically just start with a blank page, and then I think, what would the forager look like? And I just doodle, and I think the rest is pretty self-explanatory.
That's pretty good. Yeah. What would you say is your greatest artistic inspirations there? I'll just bring up the forager I did as a. By coincidence, our foragers look very similar.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've seen one forager, you've seen them all, you know.
I guess that's true. All right, no offense, I'm deleting this. So here we go, drawing some gold.
So I think it's pretty well known that you went from Itchy Feet the comic to Itchy Feet the card game. What led to that though? Like why or where did the idea to turn it into a card game come from? Was that something you'd always been interested in games, or what's the origin story there?
I had this was in about 2016 or so. The webcomic that I'd been doing initially just for kind of friends and family. It's kind of a theme I'm realizing of me making stuff just for myself and for other people, and then it kind of taking on a life of its own. But I was just doing this comic about living in, because I had moved to Europe and I was living learning new languages, and there was lots of stuff I wanted to write home about, but I didn't want to write emails, so I started writing this comic. And then there wasn't really another comic at the time anyway about living in foreign lands, and so it kind of caught some, and learning foreign languages especially, it like caught well with the language learning community of people, for which they're underserved in terms of like memes and stuff, at least at the time. And so what does gold look like when it's like coming out of like a vein? I don't know. I've never dug for gold before, but you have.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I can afford these clothes I'm wearing.
It's true. Gold digger. Does it look like that? Does it look like a lot? Is it a vein?
That's how it looked for me, you know.
Just two squiggly lines. So I wanted to, at around 2016 or 2015, the comic had kind of grown in popularity to the point where I had, tens of thousands of followers on Facebook, which back then was a social media network, kids, that lots of people were using, and it wasn't a toxic, terrible place yet. It was actually pretty nice. And you could post stuff and actually get a following, and they didn't try to nickel and dime you for everything. Now you post something on Facebook and they want you to promote it even to your own followers of people who are actually following. It's terrible. Anyway, at the time it was kind of growing organically because that's how they did it back then. It reminds me a little bit how banks used to pay, like a checking account used to pay like a good amount of interest, and then they just got rid of that. And now money in a checking account just sort of rots as interest, as inflation goes up. It's kind of similar where like it used to be when you posted on social media, it would kind of get organic traffic and sort of grow itself. And now they took all that away because Mark Zuckerberg doesn't have enough yachts. I feel for him. Oh, remind me, I had a great idea for a game where you play as sad billionaires. And this isn't a game yet, but the token, you heard it here first. the token you would use to measure sadness would be a tiny violin. So you would gather all these teeny tiny violin tokens, and that would be your sadness as a billionaire.
Champagne problems.
Yeah, ooh, that's a good name for a game. Champagne problems. So anyway, as I was saying, I wanted to make. I was looking for like, well, okay, I've got an audience here. Maybe I can like do shirts or hats or some stuff that they would like to purchase, and maybe people who follow things like to buy things with pictures of that thing on it. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe I can like deliver that. I had no intention that it would make me any money, that I would do anything with it after that. I thought a card game was one of the things on a list of things that my friend and I were brainstorming about what I could do. She said, you could make a card game. And I was like, oh, okay, that's easy enough. Like, and Exploding Kittens had come out around that time, and Exploding Kittens is from the artist of the Oatmeal. And so I thought like, well, that was a pretty popular Kickstarter campaign. Maybe I could do something like that. My campaign didn't raise millions like Exploding Kittens did, but it did do well enough that I thought like, oh, heck. Oh, geez. Oh, shoot. Maybe I should do more of this.
And like, were you into gaming already at the time? Like, were you playing games casually, or did you start by figuring out what a card game was and then realized you liked it?
Yeah, coincidentally, around that same time, I played, through the same person who gave me the idea to do the card game, I played my first modern board game, which was Pandemic Legacy, the first season. And so that blew my mind on 3 different levels. First of all, a modern board game. Like, I remember taking a picture and posting it online of like, look how complicated this game is. There are like cubes everywhere, like episode 1 of season 1 of Pandemic Legacy. Not the heaviest game around, but it just looks, it's got this big map with complicated lines and stuff. I was just like, whoa, this is crazy. And then it was a cooperative game. I'd never even heard of there being cooperative games at the time. And then the third level was a legacy game. So like all 3, like a game that you actually destroyed cards and tore stuff up and put stickers on the board and stuff. So all these things were kind of blowing my mind. And so then it's not like Itchy Feet, the card game, is very similar to Pandemic Legacy, but that was the first time I was like, oh, there's a whole industry here that I can learn from. And that's when I started going down the Jamey Stegmaier has a whole blog series for Kickstarter people. There are podcasts about like how to run Kickstarters, how to produce board games, what your factories are, all that stuff. So I started getting into that at the same time and thinking like, oh, actually, this is kind of cool. And then when Itchy Feet did well, I thought, well, here's an opportunity for me to do art and at the same time, like, make stuff that people actually play with. That's awesome. That's great. So I've always been kind of I'm more into video games initially. I don't play many video games at all anymore, but growing up, that was always more my thing. I never really played many board games, but I'm glad I found them. I'm glad I found some games.
Likewise. Yeah, I remember the first time we ever talked, I wanted to know if you were ever going to make like release puzzles of famous Itchy Feet drawings or anything. Like the one I always think about is the map that has like the hateable new bridge and the lovable old bridge. The like the European town, I think is what it was.
Map of every European city. Yeah, that's still today by far my most like viral comic.
I'm glad you went with card games instead of coffee mugs. Otherwise, I don't think we ever would have met.
Yeah, I don't think that coffee mug business is real cutthroat. Board game people are nice,
Yeah.
Coffee mug people are the worst. It's just
The margins are huge though.
they make so much money. They make Lamborghini money, these coffee mug people. It's awful. They're awful. They're the worst. Can I request a card with a female with glasses? Ancient world glasses. You mean I could just draw a female being with glasses right now, if that's what you want. Or did you mean a card in the game, Almighty Female with Glasses? Let me know. I like the style and vibe of this campaign that my copy of Rollcam arrives tomorrow. Hooray! Hope you enjoy it. Depending on how I like it, I will probably get expansions in the PM. Ooh, well, I hope you like it. All right, this looks good, right? Okay, so now we need a color for the prospector's diaper. This is a big moment for the prospector. How soiled is the prospector's diaper going to be?
Where is the sun in this picture in the sky? How late in the day is it?
That's a good question. I haven't done the shadows yet. Why? Does that matter for the tone of the prospector's diaper?
The soil level of the diaper. I imagine it's less soiled in the morning.
Right. Said like a true father of an infant yourself.
Father of an infant who uses one diaper the whole day, huh?
Just powering through the whole day.
So, when it comes to these mortals, would you say that we start with the effects that we want and then figure out which mortals attach to those effects, or we start with the mortals that make sense and then figure out the effects that they would be prone to do, or how would you say we approach mortal making?
I think we've done it in both ways. Like I think there are certain mortals where we know that the effect has been good for the game, and then we go and like this is an example of one. The prospector's effect is that they gain a blessing. In other words, they become more valuable when they enter the mountains, which is a specific land. And so there's one of those mortals for each of the lands. There's one for each, like there's a mortal that gains blessings when they enter the islands and so on. And this one for a long time was the Yodeler, but then we thought like there's a good example where we thought like the Yodeler, that's such a good mortal, but the effect is not, it's just not living up to the name. It's just okay, they get blessed when they go in the mountains. That's not that great. And so we gave them a different mechanism of that they just blast everybody out of the land when they're poked. When they yodel, they just everybody goes running, which is way funnier. And it's like, okay, well, we still want this mortal that gets blessed when they enter the mountains. Who else would get blessed? And so we've done it from both sides, where we like the mechanism and try to find a fitting theme. And then we, I think what's an example of a mortal that we started theme first and then tried to find, like we just knew this one had to be in the game somewhere. Can you think of one?
I mean, we started like I think some good examples would be like the basic action mortals, like being able to add a hut to the land or remove a hut from the land. Those were things that we knew we wanted mortals to be able to do, and those came fairly easily. Where if you're adding a hut, that's going to be a builder, and if you're removing a hut, I think it took about 5 seconds to decide that would be a pyromaniac.
Yeah.
And it's not like we started with those as mortals and then tried to figure out an effect. We knew we wanted those effects in the game, and then we found the most natural mortal to fulfill those effects, I think. With the Yodeler, I think that's a great example where that was one that was born out of just playing the game. Is we would be coming up with these emergent narratives. We would just be creating our own storylines, and we would say like, "Oh yeah, this mortal's leaving because they're sick of the Yodeler," and that was just like a funny visual.
Mm-hmm.
And so then after that, we were like, well, what if that was actually the Yodeler's effect? What if when you poked the Yodeler, other people left? And I've really enjoyed that iteration of Mortals, where it's like the storylines that we think they would be prone to do, sort of drive the changes to the effects that they actually provide in the game.
Yeah. They're so important that way. If a mortal doesn't, I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but I know that there are where we have. Oh, what? That's why this has been so dull. I've had this on the wrong layer. Sorry, I put this on the gold layer. There you're there. Not everything. See, Kevin. I
Yeah.
blame you.
Imagine what would have happened to the diaper.
All right. So the problem is that, yeah. Anyways, what were we saying? We haven't thought of any. I haven't thought of an example of this, but mortals that we got rid of or changed because they just weren't adding anything to the narrative, even though they were thematically appropriate to the effect. But I'm sure we have, like in brainstorming mortals, just kind of discounted ones that weren't all that evocative.
I mean, we had the pirate for a while, and then the sea captain, and then the pirate became the sea captain, and the sea captain became the fisherman.
Mm-hmm.
And it was always the same effect every time, but it was just like what felt more appropriate for the story, like that type of example.
Yeah. Yeah, because like pirate, I don't know, there's something about fisherman. Pirate already has and this works for some mortals, but for this particular one, these ones always felt a bit more generic. And a pirate already has kind of a moral stamp. Like you already know that a pirate is kind of a bad guy. Even if they're like charming, they're like kind of a bad person. And the fishermen, kind of like the prospector, they're kind of neutral. They're not really morally one way or the other. And so it makes it more interesting that they start out unworthy and then become worthy. And then that becomes part of their journey and their like narrative. They start out with more of a blank slate. Then when you impact them, that becomes more narratively interesting. Whereas someone like the cannibal is more interesting because that's a morally like an immoral already. It comes loaded with like an immoral feeling. So
yeah. Another example of those connotations, which came from feedback from playtesters, was the nudist. The nudist initially was when it went into a land, it cursed everybody, and
it was also unworthy initially.
Right. Now it comes out worthy, and when it moves into a land, it can curse or bless another mortal there. And so sort of leaves it up to you as the storyteller, as the player, to determine what type of nudist it's going to be. And I think that's just a lot more rich, and it attaches a lot less stigma to a given mortal as well, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, the same. I went through the same, although we never talked about this, but I went through the same thing with the witch, where initially they were unworthy. And I thought like, yeah, it's kind of a cliche and kind of like a um uh patriarchal kind of, I don't know, it just felt a little bit too Puritan to have the witch be unworthy when actually witches would have been very close to, they're, when you look at them traditionally, they're very close to the gods and they're very close to spirituality and have a lot of good relationship with the occult. And so I thought, well, they should be worthy. Like they are on your side as the gods. You consider them worthy. It's the other mortals that would consider them unworthy.
Yeah.
So that's been kind of a fun thing to think about. And it's like the other thing though that I try to remember is that, if you don't agree with the way that the game has presented a certain mortal, like you have the option as the god, you have the agency to change their worthiness. You can bless the cannibal if you feel particularly strongly that cannibalism is good, for example. All right. Prospector. What do we think?
Notes for me. Looks good. That's a clean diaper. That prospect can work for another 8 hours.
All right, this is just for you.
Oh boy. Oh boy. What would the Amazon warehouse say now? Idea. Ship it.
I mean, it's going to be very easy to see when it's small.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's definitely the prospector.
Do you think we can get like the scratch and sniff cards
Uh, too far. All right.
What percent of your drawings would you say are trolling the people who watch you draw? It's
Speaking
definitely
in
not
these
zero.
streams or in general.
And on the Discord, I feel like you do a non-zero amount of troll-based art.
I've done a lot of art that has taken me not no time at all for the express purpose of just messing with people who are the beloved people on the Discord who like to mess with me too.
Yeah.
Okay. Who's
What do you have
next? We
next?
have the scientist, we have the cannibal, we have the royal, we have the deadbeat, and we have the swindler. Who should we do next? There's a chance of it being added to the game. This is the female with glasses. Just wanted to surprise my friend.
Taking a look at our mortal list.
We might be able to get
what you
some.
wish for.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I'm just hung up on the glasses thing. Like, did ancient people wear glasses? Or more importantly, because this isn't exactly the most historically accurate game, but like, will it seem out of place to have a mortal with glasses? Because I did draw the scientist to be more feminine presenting. So I could put glasses on a scientist. I mean, everybody knows scientists are huge nerds, and everyone who wears glasses is a nerd. And so I think that would work. But it might be also too stereotypical, because we want to break cliches a little bit, because not all scientists are nerds, you absolute bigot, and not all nerds wear glasses. So, I mean, that's just an awful thing to say.
Both my parents are scientists, and there's a chance they're tuned in. And both of them wear glasses, and one of them is a female.
All right, so in a way, we did include a female with glasses in this game, because your mom presumably is who you're talking about, who wears glasses and is a scientist. Hello, Kevin's mom, if you're there.
Maybe. We'll see.
All right, this is the deadbeat. That's what the vote we got from Spoliminius. This one's quite simple. So the deadbeat's effect is to create a mortal and then leave. Hence, they're just kind of piecing out here, which Kevin and I both find distasteful as newly minted fathers. Once again, we both have infant kids. The idea of leaving them behind in the bushes, I don't like that very much, but that's why this is deadbeat's unworthy. They're unworthy. All right, where's that color? This color. Should they be doing this?
To try it out, right?
Yeah, it's kind of hard. Like, does that communicate? No. It looks like they're just doing this.
Yeah. I mean, plus, like, their eyes are looking back at the baby, so it doesn't really make any sense that they're then covering their eyes while trying to look back at the baby, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm not in that. I don't have the headspace of a deadbeat myself.
Thank goodness for that. We'll draw this and we'll see how it looks.
So I know you've talked about this before, but not with me. I like hearing about the integrated process of designing a game and also sort of developing the art alongside it, because I think King Bean Studio is unique in that respect. Most, like, the larger game companies, like, they buy a game or they design a game in house, and then they hire out an artist and a graphic designer, and then sort of put it all together at the end. And your process is way different.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure how different it is because I've never worked in, like, I've never done a board game the traditional way. I don't know what the pipeline for a regular game and art direction would be. But I imagine it's not this way, which is do the cover art several times, then throw it out, then do a bunch of card art, and then throw that out, and then do the graphic design a million different times as the game develops. I like doing it that way because even though it does sometimes result in wasted art, it's part of the process. So it's not really wasted. It's just kind of, it's like saying you wasted the cardboard you printed the prototype on. It's like, well,
Yeah.
sure, kind of, but you also needed it for the stage it was in. And that's kind of how it is. Like, I put art in when I feel like it's kind of ready to see what the game would, when the game is ready to see what it would look like with art in it. And that's important because for me and for Almighty, for us, the theme of this was super important. Like, the stories that came out of it was really important. And so, like, the art needed to come in early to see, like, does it bring this to life in the way that we want it to? And if not, we're probably going to change some mechanisms to make sure that it does. So the art and the theme informed a lot of how the game was built.
Yeah. You also, I mean, I know you already talked about this on this stream, but like some of the early feedback we were getting was that it's a lot of data to synthesize. If you've got four mortals out on the map and they each have their own effects and things, and then that feedback just like fully disappeared once mortals started getting their own art, because it's such a shortcut for the human brain to just stare at an image and be like, this is the one that can do this effect. So you only need to read the effect once instead of constantly reevaluate, like read every single mortal across the whole map every single turn.
Yeah, I mentioned that a little bit before you arrived. And I remember the test we did where all the mortals had either the same art or very similar art, and that was the feedback we got. And then right after that, or the next day, or maybe it was before, but around that same test and that same weekend of games, I played Arcs. And Arcs is a game that has a lot of, and Oath is like this too. They have a lot of very unique, specific effects on all these cards that everyone kind of needs to be aware of. And and the artwork goes a long way to being like an icon at a distance, where, like, if you can't recognize what the card, you don't remember what the card does, if you're seeing the card from a great distance, you can kind of spot it. And I remember my brother mentioning this, that like, I think once these cards have art on them, it'll be the same and you'll be able to remember these effects. He was right.
Yeah, he was totally right. But it's just so interesting because it's like, so many design pipelines wouldn't have attached art yet, right? Like they would be getting that feedback and then saying, okay, this game has too many effects, and then sort of build game decisions based around that feedback. Or maybe not. I mean, maybe they just put in like icons or clip art or something, but I don't know. To me, I feel like it's one of your advantages of being the artist and the designer all in the same studio.
Yeah, but to me, the experience of the art is a big part of the experience of the game, and so you can't really divorce one from the other. At least for the games that I make.
Do you like any games that have substandard art? Or I guess maybe that's not something you want to say out loud.
Substandard. Probably not how I would put it. I'm looking at my shelf and I don't see any games that have like boring, or I have the original El Grande, that one, like the German version. I don't know. What about you? I don't see any. I mean, something like The Mandalorian, I don't think that that's like great art. It's kind of does the job. It puts you in the world without just being photos from the show. But I don't know if that's what you meant.
Yeah, sure. I guess that's what I meant.
I don't have nostalgia for. I haven't played any Splotter games. I know those have like famously austere productions, and I don't. I've never played them, so I don't know if I like them or not. But I don't have any like nostalgia for old games. I know that there's a contingent of people who prefer games that have like a very Spartan look to them and are just all about the game. And I place for me personally, a big part of the enjoyment of playing a game comes from the tactile, like the experience of working with the pieces, which is part of why Pax Pamir, the second edition, is one of my favorite games, because the production on that is just phenomenal. I got a comment here. Well, it might be sold retail because of the campaign's success, and will Great Gobgoo speak today? I don't know if Almighty will be sold retail. If it is, I was thinking about this today, I will probably have to produce a different version, because I think the deluxe is going to be too expensive for the price that you all Kickstarter backers are getting it for. I'll probably have to do like a cheap, either a more expensive, much more expensive price on it, or make a much cheaper version. I'm not sure. I'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm not so excited about the idea, even though if the game does take off, becomes a humongous hit. Okay, sure, then maybe it would be stupid not to do it. But I don't know. I made a retail version of Roll Camera that didn't have the clapper box, and people just got sad when they got that version. And I just thought, like, I don't want that. I want there to be a cool version that has all the stuff in it, the bells and whistles that we want. And if that means it's not going to be in Walmart or Target, fine. Almighty's not that game anyway. So that said, I have, for now, this is the first time I'm partnering with Allplay. It's a new thing, and they have connections to distributors and retailers that I don't have. So it could be that the Kickstarter version gets a much wider audience than I by myself would otherwise reach. So hopefully that's the case. I'll tell you one thing. I've been getting a ton of interest from every day. I'll get another email from a foreign language publisher, from publishers, all kinds, from all different languages, big ones you've heard of, small ones you've never heard of, who want to publish the game in Chinese or Polish or Czech or Russian or French or Spanish. I've gotten a lot, Portuguese even. So Italian. Just today, I got an Italian publisher reached out. So I know that there is some appeal to it having a wider market. Let's hope. Fingers crossed. Ruka Gamer says, art is one important factor for me when I buy games. Artwork talks the game. That's a great way to put it. Yeah, it's a big part of the experience. One of my favorite quotes that I heard from Kyle Farron when he, I think, was doing one of these. Kyle Farron, the Leader Games, former of Leader Games, artist of Root, Oath, Arcs. He said, if you're any other kind of illustrator, then, let's say you're a comic book illustrator, or you do paintings or whatever it is, like, people passively interact with your work, and at best case, they open up your book and kind of flip through the pages and read your comic or whatever, and then, or look at your thing on the wall, and that's kind of it. When you're a game illustrator, like, people are interacting and playing and engaging with your artwork constantly and actively and ongoingly, and that's a much more satisfying, as an illustrator, a much more satisfying place to have your work be so intimately tied with all of these, with play. Actually, it's great. Let me ask you this, Kevin. Have you ever been tricked? Well, I don't know. Are you the kind of player who would, this first part of this question, are you the kind of player, of gamer, who would buy a game based on the look alone or if not alone, that it would form a major part of your decision to buy a game just based on its artwork or its presentation?
think I think I'm the opposite of that. I think I'm the type of gamer that would avoid buying a game if the presentation wasn't appealing to me, even at the cost of missing out on a game that is very good.
Okay, so
And I
then
think
go ahead.
I was gonna say I think that's true for theme as well. I think I would skip out on a game if it had a theme I didn't care for, even if the game itself was something I would love.
So have you ever been tricked by a game where the either the theme or the presentation like spoke to you in a big way, and now you just never play it because it's actually, I don't want you to put you on the spot and say it's not a good game, but it's just a game that either wasn't for you or didn't like live up to what you thought it was going to do?
Um, I think I'll answer generically to avoid throwing shade anywhere.
Yeah.
Um, this happens to me with almost every single IP based game that I buy. Like,
Mm.
I really enjoyed the book or the movie or the series, and then now there's a game, and I buy the game because I'm excited about the IP, and so then I play the game, and I'm like, oh, it's not actually a compelling game. It just has a, a piece of intellectual property painted over top of it, and I think that happens to me pretty frequently. What about you?
Mm, yeah, for sure. Happened to me a lot earlier, especially when I would buy games, being like, "Oh, this is super cool." I gotta say, it has happened to me with a lot of Ryan Lockett's games. His art is amazing. I love it. His business model is one that I have looked up to. I consider myself a student of the way that he is a publisher, and how prolific he is incredibly impressive. I follow every one of his games. I've bought many of the previous ones. And every time I sit down to play him, I'm just like, this isn't really for me. Like, this is really, really cool. And the presentation is incredible. And it just comes together as a piece of, as an object so well. And the
Yeah.
gameplay is just like, yeah, this isn't really what I want out of this game. So that's been one. I'll call that out. I love you anyway, Ryan, if you're listening. If you're one of the 10 people listening to this.
I will say that the other Kickstarter going on right now that's God based for the gods looks like it has just gorgeous components and the art seems really beautiful. But
Mm.
um, for me personally, I wasn't that interested in the gameplay. It didn't look like it would like spark the same type of like laughter around the table or like it wouldn't draw me into it. And so I decided to pass, even though I'm really impressed by the presentation.
It does look like it has amazing table presence. Yeah, they really knocked it out of the park with the presentation on that one for sure. I forgot that the backgrounds here on these ones are lighter color. There we go. So that's a simpler one. It doesn't have as much, it's not as involved as a piece of art. And it's also off center. This is unusual for mortal cards, which usually the character is centered. But I think for the Deadbeat, I like that they're kind of, you want to get the feeling that they're exiting the frame. So I hope that works. I may end up putting something in the background here if I feel like this isn't enough. But sometimes it's good to have mortals that have a really clear image, because then again, they're just immediately identifiable at a distance. And I think this one with these like 2 points of visual, the like little baby in the basket and the bean walking away, I think will remind you of the Deadbeat, hopefully.
Calls out both component parts of the Deadbeats action to create a mortal and then to move. So
Yeah.
I think it's doing work. So when you're not entertaining us on live streams while you draw, what's your go-to? You listening to podcasts or music or dead silence?
I've recorded the sound of my baby has found this new pitch of shriek that really rattles your skull at this like frequency that my brain wants to bleed out of my ears. And I have recorded that. and then I play it at full volume in this room just to remind me, put me in my place as a mortal.
I can picture that because I'm actually hearing that frequency right now in my house.
Or I'll listen to a podcast. Before I tell you what podcast I listen to, should we do another mortal or should we try an act card? We could do the cannibal. We could do the scientist. We could do the royal. Sam says it sounds like the torture scenes in Andor. Yeah, but fun. Oh, okay, an act card. All right, this one's a bit. I haven't prepared like the sketches I prepared, knowing that like I could do any one of them kind of with my brain half on, and like talk to Kevin. But this one, I'm not sure. I know I want it. I don't know that we'll finish it. I'll put that up front. I'll go for like another half hour, and then we'll see where we get to. And if you have to jump out, Kevin, please don't.
I stay longer than I was invited to stay. Not leaving.
Yeah, just it'd be great. However long you stay, just wear out your welcome. That would be ideal.
Yeah. I know what an Irish goodbye is. What's this type of goodbye where you just don't do it and people want you to leave? What
the kind of okay. Try to trick me into saying the nationality that nobody wants and won't leave.
That's right.
American.
You want to say hi to Ruby? She's pretty interested in whatever's going on right now.
Hey, Ruby. Ruby.
See, I've got the howling child shriek, and then she adds to it with a howl that goes on about twice as long afterwards. So it's a real chorus.
So this is a card from the God of Storms called Lightning Storm. And it is not an ongoing act, right? Kevin?
Sam said it's a Minnesota goodbye. Oh man, I used to live in Minnesota, and that hits appropriately.
Some Midwest humor I don't get.
Everyone's just so kind and has so many. I feel like this happens. I do this to you sometimes. You're like, okay, gotta go, and then I'm like, oh yeah, by the way, what is your deepest fear? Could you delve into that for 30 minutes?
My deepest fear is being cut down in a giant lightning storm.
Oh, well, this should be cathartic.
Or traumatic.
Fine line. Do you have a god that you enjoy drawing acts for the most?
No, I actually have been enjoying them all, doing them for all of them. I've been rotating through, so I won't do all the acts of one god all at once. I will like do one from one, and then I'll rotate to the next one, and the next one, the next, because they're all so thematically different. I like to do a mighty act from the love god, and then move to the storm god, and then to the god of the dead. Like it's like moving into different movie genres almost. So that's been great. So far I've just I haven't. I don't have a specific one. So this one's kind of interesting because the angle, it's a strange angle, isn't it? I think it'll be fine though. I think that character should be a little bit more front center. This one's a bit smaller.
This is Lightning Storm.
Yeah.
So this is in each land with a cloud, you can smite a mortal aura, and you gain a glory for each one that you do that to.
Just wigging out. This poor one didn't make it though. Just got absolutely roasted.
That's a refried bean.
That's in poor taste. See you, Sam. It's tricky to draw. Destruction. How much of it, yeah, it comes from wet brush? I don't know. I won't get into the weeds, but there's different ways you can do it, and I always change it. So you'll see in the final act card art, like I don't settle on one way to draw huts. There's all kinds of different methods I've used. The color schemes are all different. I don't know. I don't know that it matters. It's not very disciplined though, in that way.
We used to call huts villages, and we used to call mortals followers, but I feel like you've kept us on a strict leash to try to be as I guess cognizant as possible when we're trying to come up with the verbs and the nouns for this game, because the stronger the verb and the noun, the easier it is to actually speak in the language of the game, because people just aren't going to tend to say follower as frequently as they would if you give them an easier word to say. And same with like village, and we've just found ourselves calling it hut all the time, and so now that's just what the actual term is.
Yeah, a lot of the game is like that. Like the theme of the game is you being an ancient god, kind of smiting mortals, and like you puny mortals, or like worthy and unworthy. Like those terms come from the theme, where it's like the you want to say those things when you're playing a game about gods. You want to make judgment of worthiness to mortals, and so that all got folded into the gameplay. Which is part of why, like, one of the things that's not in the game that is kind of thematically, noticeably missing is prayers. Something we've tried to get into the game many, many times, and I think the reason it has survived, despite like the game has survived without prayers, despite the fact that they seem like they should be a really important and crucial part of any God game. And most of them have that as a mechanism. And we've tried prayers so many kinds of different ways to do it, and it just never really stuck. And I think part of the reason why that ends up being okay in Almighty, and nobody's mentioned it so far, that of all the people who've played or reviewed the game, is because it just makes you feel like you're just ignoring them. They might be praying, but you don't hear and you don't care. You're just you have your own designs. You don't care what they want.
It's its own commentary. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. This hut needs to be kind of more exploding a bit more. But it still needs to look like the bottom. So how you said your parents might be watching. How's your family, because this is your first Kickstarter. So how has your like friends and family reacted to this whole thing?
My parents, I don't think that my parents appreciated the vibe of the campaign. Like in their heads, they're gonna back the game at some point, but like being an early backer and then being part of the whole like campaign wasn't something that I really explained to them as an event. So I said they might be watching, but it's also likely that they're going to wait 5 more days and then open up the Kickstarter page for the first time ever.
Okay.
And then I would say close friends who aren't gamers have just sent me a lot of sent me a lot of text messages about how they're confused about what's going on with the God of War game upgrades, which is wonderful. Somebody yesterday texted and asked if there was a Dutch add-on that was happening as part of the new upgrade.
I've been
So-
loving it. It's so much fun. I'm loving how much everybody's getting into it, and um,
yeah.
absolutely absurd.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like this has been a really unique campaign for people who are used to backing Kickstarters. And then I personally just have a large contingent of people who don't really play games and don't use Kickstarter at all. And they just think, it's like, have you heard the stories of like the people who went on an airplane for the first time and just experienced like 6 hour delays and insane turbulence and just assumed like, well, I guess this is what an airplane ride is like because this is my first one ever.
It just sucks.
That's
Yeah.
what's happening. That's what's happening with some of my friends.
Oh, but if they ever
And
back another campaign, they're gonna be like, "Huh, this isn't as
yeah,
wacky.
yeah,
It's much more safe."
exactly, exactly. uh, uh,
People have been saying that, like, I've been hearing people say, "Oh, it's like a genius marketing move, really brilliant." And it's like, well, yeah, if it was intentional, but it was really intended to be just kind of something I did. I remember I told you before the campaign started, like, I'm doing this to try and reduce the amount of work I have to do, and that did not end up being the case because I have to talk now to a god every day and see if they will, and then interpret their will. So I wasn't
It's
intending
so
to do.
funny. So funny. I
Oh
I
yeah,
just love. Go ahead.
someone asked, "Is the God of Board Game Upgrades going to speak today?" If they do, I will let you know. I will let you know.
I I just love that both the Kickstarter page and the BGG page have just been this mixture of people being like, does this play well at 2 player? And then other people replying with like pictures of meeples sitting on toilet lids. It's just such a hilarious mixture of
A
folks that
poem
are
about
fully bought
Dutch.
in. Oh man, just folks that are fully bought in, and then other people that are like trying to sift through the the craze. It's just made me so happy to see that mixture.
It's very, very rewarding.
Greenish
Certainly.
Fox on Discord said, "I'm so happy to feel like I've gone some way to confuse Kevin's friends, and you've gone a long way. I would say. It's say you've been the main acolyte."
Yeah, you've definitely been a main character of that. It definitely, like, all it comes from for me is my inability to take much of anything all that seriously, especially things that are important, like, Kickstarter campaigns with thousands of backers.
Well,
But
I think it's a really effective way to find your audience. Like the people who enjoy this type of Kickstarter and the shenanigans that are going on are the same type of people that will enjoy the game in the same way that the folks who don't appreciate that are probably not the right audience for Almighty in the first place. And so
maybe
I
they're
think it's like,
self-selecting out.
yeah, so like maybe it's costing a few Kickstarter backers, but I think it's attracting the right ones, and it's a nice warning alert for the ones who might not find this game is for them.
It's like those Beatles that have neon colors on their shells. It's like a warning. It's like a
Exactly.
klaxon.
Exactly. I have been monitoring the like worst Kickstarter ever thread
Oh
on
yeah.
BGG just to see if we ever make an appearance. And we have not yet.
Whew.
I'm gonna let my dog out. I'll be back in 3 seconds.
1, 2, 3. Just a pathological liar. Okay. So we've done the initial zaps. I actually think that, or no, we haven't even gotten to the zaps yet. We have done this, like the initial destruction. Now this flame part is not going to be black. Maximum number of limit of reached. Oh, I might have to do some file reorganization here.
What was the problem? You hit what maximum?
Each file has a limited number of layers. So what I've done with all the other ones, I just realized I haven't done it with the Storm God yet, is separate them into different files for Mighty and
I see.
not. So the Hurricane, Flash Flood, which is not a Storm Act anymore, probably will be if we ever make a God of the Sea, it'll be a God of the Sea, come back as a God of the Sea Act. Rains, what's that? Oh yeah, Rains, Fertile, that's a basic act. Tornado is a mighty act. Clear skies, distant thunder, fog, and the rest of these I think are basic. Okay. Oh, except obviously the one we just did. Loop. There you go.
That's still my favorite.
Personal rain cloud. Did I show you the roll camera scene that's almost exactly the same that I didn't realize I had done? Funny.
Yeah.
Rainbows, Stormborns, significant cloud, voice, wind at your back. I'm just deleting files, deleting them.
Yikes.
Hope I'm not messing that up. Gust, rainbow, personal rain card. Okay, now we should have enough layers to continue our work.
Do you have a theoretical expansion god that you're most or least looking forward to drawing Axe for?
Ooh, drawing Axe for. So as you know, we have, only the people on this stream will know. We're pretty close to a design for the God of Dreams that we're pretty happy with. And the way that one's act deck works is that they all have the exact same effect. And we won't go into exactly what that is because it may change, who knows. But currently, if we were to currently put that one into production, it would. All the cards that at least the basic acts that the God of the Dreams has are all identical functionally, but the images on them will be completely different because they're dreams. So the way that the God of the Dreams will work is that like you play the card and then it does have an effect. They're all the same, but then the impact of that is different every time you play it. And so it's kind of the idea being that like you play this dream card to the mortals and then they interpret that in different ways depending on what your will is. And so then it would basically be all the cards in that deck would have to be crazy dreams with like weirdo imagery, and they'd have to all look like kind of, Dixit cards on LSD or something. And I'm not sure if I have it. I don't know how to do that. So I'm delighted and afraid. It will be a huge challenge if it does end up being that's how the God of Dreams works.
I think you'll need to take LSD.
Again? More? Maybe so. Have you ever have you ever tried chronicling your dreams?
No, I have not. Have you?
Yeah, there was a brief period where I was into lucid dreaming, or I was trying to get to be into lucid dreaming. And so one of the steps to do that is to keep a dream journal. And it did not go well. I stopped that process because there's an intermediate stage where you will start to hallucinate in your bed in the middle of the night. Like your body will have the whatever chemicals that like freeze, like paralyze you so that you don't go walking around, but you'll be awake. So you'll be paralyzed and awake and hallucinating. Like dreams will come into your room and they will tend to be, the book I was reading on it was like, oh, they will be horrifying and they will tend to be like your worst nightmares, but they're just dreams. They can't do anything to you. And I was like, I'm not okay with this. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be awake, paralyzed in my bed for hours while my worst nightmares go marching around my bedroom. No thanks. So that's as far as I got. But for a while, I did keep a dream journal, and it was kind of interesting. You're supposed to chart the patterns so that when you are dreaming, you recognize the patterns and then go, I'm dreaming, now I can lucid dream. That's kind of the idea.
I didn't know there was like a protocol to arrive at lucid dreaming. Fascinating.
I don't know if it works because I never got that far. I just was like, nope, not for me.
Huh. No, I've never kept a journal. I instead like to regale people with stories in my dreams for 10 minutes as part of my Minnesota goodbye.
What if you're Minnesota goodbye?
It's more of a verbal dream journal. Do you dream in other languages?
I have had dreams in where I am speaking other languages. A lot of them are me being misunderstood in that language, and that's the dream, is that like I can't think of the word and I'm embarrassed. Um, so that definitely does happen. But people, there's this thing of like, oh, if you dream in a foreign language, then it means you're fluent. And it's like, well, you can have anxiety dreams about not being fluent too. That can't technically counts as being in another language, but just badly. This is tricky. Lightning is hard to say because it has to be jagged, like, but not fake looking, So I'll judge it up later, but just trying to get the basics. It's lightning storm. They're the main characters of this card. Took a long time getting the lightning bolts right for the tokens in the game because for a long time we would just use the ones from Power Vacuum, but those ones eventually just didn't really fit the way that those ones are shaped didn't really fit the mood of it. So we designed these new ones, and it took me some time. All this stuff takes time, Kevin.
Oh, that explains why we've been working on it for 3 years.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite part? Like there's the game design, there's the game development, which I think is everybody's least favorite part. There's the art, and then there's like working with the manufacturers for componentry. I'm sure I'm
Yeah.
missing, 20 other pieces, but in my mind, those are the contenders for favorite.
No, I think I like them all. I think the part where I have to format the files, which is the part I'm about to do. Once all the art is done, I have to put all the files together for the factory, and that's a lot of very technical work that is not particularly rewarding. And a lot of times, the factory is going to come back and be like, the colors are wrong on this, and this file isn't the right format, and it's like these layers are too transparent or whatever, and then I have to like go through and change it, and that's not particularly rewarding. But all the rest of it, I do really like. Because they're so different from each other. Like this part doing the art is so different from the game design part. And I think my favorite part of the game design stages is the feeling of when you crack a problem, like when we've been working on something for a really long time and then the solution comes to you, or we either crack through it through brute force or by approaching it from a different angle. And then it's like everything opens up, and that feeling of like, release when that problem has been resolved is so intoxicating. What about you?
We've had a few where it's like we call each other, we have no idea how to get past a certain problem, which we both agree is a problem and like is sort of a non-starter for the game. And then like 2.5 hours later, after basically just like talking or trying some like quick iterations, we just have a solution that looked like it was so obvious now that we're on the other side of it. I feel like that's happened like 10 to 15 times over this process where it was like, all right, we're just going to brute force our way into an answer because we have all day to work on it. And so we're just going to work on it until it's done. Uh, and I wouldn't say that's my favorite part. I would say sometimes it's pretty brutal. Um, but it's nice being on the other side of it.
There's been so many times where a reviewer will say something, or someone who plays the game, like at Essen, people come back and they just give their feedback right after they played it and say things like, "Oh, it was so." I can't think of something specific, but like, "Oh, it was so easy to understand. Like it was so intuitive." It's like the amount of time this game has spent being unintuitive is crazy.
Yeah.
And then the amount of work we had to do to get to the point people go like, oh yeah, that icon makes sense. It's like, oh, it's incredible. So I always try to pat ourselves on the back when we get feedback where it's like, oh, and this, it actually went pretty quick. The game. It's like, man, that's great because we worked really hard because the game was taking forever for a long time. And now, of course, you look at it, you would never know, you would never see that history.
What do you think our biggest disagreement's been on this game?
Second place points.
Yeah, I guess that one's too easy. Yeah.
Uh,
Still an active disagreement.
I was pushing for. I pushed and won eventually for that in 4-player game only. You should get second place points. Points for being second. You should get half the points that the winner gets of each land if you're in second place, half rounded up or rounded down. And yeah, Kevin disagreed, but I think we've come to an agreement.
Agreed to disagree. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the way we ended it was that if Mal ever comes to my house and we play Almighty, we'll be house ruling that one out.
No second place points.
Yeah. What do you think? When have you been the most frustrated with me?
It's really fishing here for
Just looking for drama.
What's the worst part? Hey, that's what a good entertainer does. That you always win is frustrating. When we play Almighty, I have to be like, okay, is this just because the game is broken, or is this because I suck at this game? Kevin's always so good at it.
What happens, I think, without you realizing a lot, is like you'll play as Sun, I'll play as Storms, I'll win, and so then you'll beef up Sun. But then at the last minute when we play again, you're like, I'm gonna play as Storms this time because I haven't played as Storms in a while. So then I'll play as Sun with like newly overpowered cards and I'll win. And then you'll need to nerf Sun, and we just keep switching back and forth. And you keep always getting the god that's like in the most development, and I keep getting the god that's fine tuned
Maybe.
to my advantage.
Maybe. What's the most frustrating thing about working with me? Or what's the time you've been most frustrated? Maybe is the better way to put it.
I don't know. I don't think I have one.
Oh, you started this.
I mean, sometimes we get play testers and they say something offhand and it will like eat away at you. And that can be frustrating sometimes. I feel like there were periods of this development where I thought the game was farther along than you did. And I would look at some playtester feedback as like helpful, but just a data point among many. And I perceived you as looking at that feedback as like, let's tear the game down and start over.
Which we did frequently.
Those are tough times, yeah.
Yeah, I guess I could see that. I started to become very comfortable with tearing things down and like destroying work that we had done. I could imagine that was probably tough when it was a lot of work to get all that work done.
I remember you told me that you felt like you were realizing roll camera was done when all of the feedback and all the changes you were doing were lateral changes that made the game different but not better.
Mm-hmm.
And that was sort of like an indication to you that you had arrived at a like time to publish. And I think to get there, you went through lots of things where you tried out all these changes to see if they were different but not better. And I wasn't quite prepared for that. So we would play a game, everything would work well, and you're like, well, what if we just like totally redid offerings? Just let's just take a fishing trip and try that. And then we would do that for a week and be like, ah, it's not better. It's like, so should we publish it? And you're like, well, okay, but hold on. What if we redid the way scoring worked? And that would be another week. And it's like, well, what if we redid the entire way the storm god mechanism works? And so I wouldn't say there was like one specific piece of frustration, but there was a
It's
long
just
tail of development
there's
there.
always a low level of frustration working with me at any
Yeah.
capacity. That makes sense. Trying to find a good blending layer here for the fire. Ooh. That's pretty good. I always forget, does fire, is it the red in the middle or is it the yellow in the middle and the red on the outside?
I think where it's burning the brightest is the middle, and then it slowly fades into burning less.
I'm gonna have to Google search it like I always do. Okay, so what would you?
You
So,
want me-
what's your guess? I now know.
red in the middle, like red in the center, orange, and then into yellow, like fading out into nothing.
Wrong.
All right. What's the answer then?
Light in the middle, yellow, and then like lighter in the middle, and then with red on the outside. I think that's because it looks, I think it might be correct that the red is technically actually hotter, but it looks hotter to have it this way. I mean,
It's white hot is the hottest that it can be, I see. Oh, I think Marcus just joined. Hey, Marcus.
he completely missed it. He was so excited. Hello, Marcus. Nice cat.
Yeah, I don't know about white in the middle. You want me to should I just take over?
Yeah, why don't you do your version? Oh, I don't know. Something about this is not doing it for me. It's a little closer. Okay. There we go. It does it for me. That's all it took.
Well done. What would you say is the thing you can't draw? What's your art kryptonite?
I have a hard time with cars. I'm getting better though. When I realize they're just boxes. What's my kryptonite? Hands are traditionally very difficult, although I spend a lot of time drawing, like doing studies of hands and doing a lot of handwork. So that's why I'm happy with where my hands are. I'm not going to say I'm good at drawing hands, but I'm happy with where they are. That's a typical kryptonite that I kind of work through. Animals are hard. That's my kryptonite. I have a really tough time drawing. Like I could never do, like root style art where the animals take the shape of do people things. Like that would be a nightmare for me. I just don't draw animals that much. Whenever I try to draw a dog, like if I draw a dog, it looks like a badger. I mean, you saw my mule. It's like, is that a mule? Is it a donkey? Who knows? So yeah, animals is my kryptonite. I never thought about that.
It's funny that you can draw anthropomorphized kitchen appliances without issue.
Just boxes. Put in the box. Marcus asked, how many cards have I done? Let me check my art checklist. Art checklist document.
Unless you mean this stream, in which case this is card number 3.
Oh,
Now
yeah, we
started with
did two mortals, and this is the third one. Total, I've done 137 so far, and I have 51 left. That includes the maniacs and monsters.
and then who knows if the God of Board Games is gonna give you some more art to do. You'd have to ask them.
Oh, I may have not even updated that number. I did. 25 now, maniacs. That the board game upgrade, the God of Board Game Upgrades blessed us with yesterday. All right, far from finished on this piece, but I think we're going to wrap it up here pretty soon. So, Kevin, anytime you want to start drawing would be great. You know, and you waited all this time. Let's see my work.
I'm gonna branch out on my own. I'm gonna do my own live stream where I start drawing. I should share the. I think I sent it to you. My 5-year-old daughter did a box cover of Almighty.
Oh yeah,
because she's designing her own board game called Almighty People.
The sequel.
She's using the same. She's in the same box art apparently. She's been working hard on it.
I mean, that makes sense. I keep forgetting to copyright it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think she actually already did. So.
Crap. Marcus says he's impressed. I've done 130 already for this project. Thank you. 130. Actually, we just did 2 more mortals, so I can add. I've done 46, which means I've done 139. So we're checking off art left and right here.
Yeah. You have plans to do any more art streams in the coming months, or is this it?
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's not going to take me months to finish the artwork. If it does, I'm in big trouble. But I would like to do, yeah, I like doing these art streams. I think they're fun. Clouds are tricky. I don't like this at all. What are you doing here? Okay, all right. Can work with that.
You like making icons?
Not really. Icons are a whole art into themselves. And yeah, they're tricky. They need to look good at like every different size. They have a very specific practical use. They also have to fit in with the art design of the whole project. It's really a lot. Yeah. Total for this project, you mean total pieces of art, 188 total. That's just cards. So that doesn't include the board, the player boards, or any of like the meeples, any of that kind of stuff, which are also technically, or icons, graphics, any of that stuff. It's just card art, 188 pieces.
The second version of this game was a worker placement game where gods were meeples and you would place them somewhere to perform an act, and that sort of limited your god art to be a god that could also be meepleized. And I think that led to a lot of really fun artistic decisions because it created parameters for like what the sun god and the storm god and whatever could look like, because they also needed to be identifiable, unique meeples that moved around. And And then even though that version of the game has been fully trashed, I like how like the god parameters have carried throughout into this version.
That's such a good point, actually. Like the sun god that is on the cover of the box comes specifically, that shape, that like kind of keyhole shape, comes from the meeple. Like the meeple that it has now was pretty close, is pretty close to what this meeple was back in this Euro version, Gesundheit. And
Thanks.
And it informed the way that the god looks. You're right about that. And it actually, that's such a good point. It makes me think that for future gods, I should probably design their meeple first, because then that will give them a really clear shape that will make them really easily identifiable at a glance, which is important for a meeple generally. It's not super important in Almighty because they're not sharing the same space and they have also a distinct color. But it just gives them a really specific character. Like you look at the 4 gods from the base game of Almighty, and they all have a really specific different shape that has been used to inform them, which comes from that meeple. You're right about that. So yeah, that's super interesting. I have to remember that. Remind me when I'm doing the like God of Dreams we never did a piece of art for that yet. So I would need to find a shape that kind of matches it.
Right.
Makes it clear. I'm just messing with clouds now. Look at this. So what I often do is use these layer effects, which can give it a nice texture. It brings the texture from the bottom layer, which is this background, into the layers above, which I can do manually, or I can do it this way. But I can't do that with layers on top, because then, as you can see, like if I do this one, it will, which is supposed to be covering up this. Where's the? No, it's not turning. Did I break it? I think I broke the program. All right. Well, it's been about an hour and 40 minutes. I think we're going to call it here, because I broke the program and it's not responding anymore to my touch. So thank you, Kevin, for accompanying me on this journey. Thank you, Marcus, for eventually showing up, and Sam and everyone else, Spodominius, and everyone else who contributed to the discussion. It was really fun. I hope it wasn't too tedious, but this is what I do for hours every morning. I try to do about 3 drawings a day for Almighty, because there's so many to do. So off I go. Finish this card art off stream when I restart my iPad. Hope you all have
thanks for sharing.
Lovely weekend, and let's hope that the god of board game upgrade speaks to us today. Who knows? Bye.